through murder his girlfriend. All right, we're not going to talk about the latter point, but we will talk a little bit about the former one with our first guest tonight. We're going live now to Parliament House, the new Parliament House, and I'm joined by Josh Frydenberg, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, the now Prime Minister. Thanks very much for your company.
Nice to be with you, Peter.
Appreciate your patience as well, sitting through that. I won't get a comment on the Oscar Pistorius trial, but I will get a comment on Gough Whitlam. But look, I'm really interested if you can break this down for me. Today is obviously the day where all sides are paying respect to what they like and love about Gough Whitlam, even if they disagree with some of the ideological positions that he held. But it's been interesting for me as an observer to watch your side of politics be very strong about his return of Labor to power and to serious competitiveness, as well as obviously his impact on the international sphere, something that you've got a strong pedigree in already in your career. The Labor side were very interested obviously in focusing on things that Liberals haven't always seen eye to eye with them on, which is a lot of the social policy initiatives around education and health and so on. Can you put your view of Gough Whitlam's legacy into context for the viewers?
Well, I think it was very refreshing, as you say, to see the Parliament come together today to mourn a great parliamentarian and a Prime Minister who served his country well. In terms of his time as Prime Minister, the distinguishing feature for me was the recognition of China and the way he reached out to Asia, but also the work he did with the Indigenous communities. As a Labor Party leader, he was a reformer, Peter, and he helped take his party forward in a positive way. And as a person, he was larger than life. And there were some great reflections and personal anecdotes in the Parliament today about people's encounter with Gough, the fact that he held himself in high regard, but he also had good reason to, as well as having a lifelong love affair with his wife Margaret, which went on for decades. So it was a great thing, I think, for the Parliament and for the Australian public to see both sides pay their due respects to a great Australian. What
was something that you heard about him today through all of those anecdotes in the Parliament that you didn't already know? I mean, obviously we've been covering it all day here on Sky News. Other networks have been dipping into it significantly today as well. There was a lot said through the Parliament. I heard some of it, but not all of it. You were there for most of it, if not all of it yourself. What's something that you didn't know that came out today?
Well, that's a good question. And it was actually the exchange of letters upon Whitlam first coming to the Prime Ministership between him and Sir Robert Menzies that the Prime Minister mentioned. I'd never heard about that, and Sir Robert Menzies wrote to Gough Whitlam to congratulate him in 1972 on his elevation to the Prime Ministership. And then Whitlam wrote back to him paying great respect to Menzies' time as Prime Minister and the authority in which he held that position in the Parliament for so long. And I thought that exchange of letters actually reminded me of the relationship that Curtin and Menzies shared, which was actually a friendship and also mutual respect. And you know, we'd love to see that continue over time, but certainly Menzies and Whitlam, people who wouldn't see eye to eye on many policy positions, certainly shared a personal reflection with each other about the great roles and potential they had to play in Australian politics. All
right, I'm going to move into the grubby world of partisan politics in the here and now. If you don't mind, we're going to move on from some of the bipartisanship. I want to ask you about Newspoll today. It's been overshadowed. Yeah. Very understandably, but it's got to be worrying for your side of politics. Australians might like the idea that Tony Abbott is standing up to Vladimir Putin. That doesn't surprise me. But at the same time as that, primary vote went backwards today. Two-party vote went backwards today. Bill Shorten caught up on the preferred Prime Minister stakes, and Tony Abbott's number of people that are satisfied with his performance, according to Newspoll, went down as well. You could hardly have had a better time of it over the last month in terms of talking and being rewarded, if you like, or at least been extolled for having done well in the national security space, as well as obviously in the dealings with the situation in Iraq. That's got to be a political worry for the government.
Look, the next election is years away, 2016, and we're concentrating on hard economic reform, and obviously that's unpopular in some quarters, but we won't shirk that challenge. I mean, bringing the budget back to surplus is going to involve some cuts and some rationalisations, and that is difficult. As Joe Hockey talked about, we want to end the age of entitlement. But also we've got plenty of positive announcements about our infrastructure spending, about our deregulation targets, and as you say, the last few weeks have been overshadowed in the Parliament by events overseas and the deployment of the Australian Air Force and Special Forces to Iraq. These are absolutely critical issues. I think the Prime Minister and his Foreign Minister have handled them very, very well. But we're just focused on getting the job done, Peter, and the next election and the polls that come with that are a long way away.
A lot of MPs seem to be suggesting that Julie Bishop has become a very important sounding board for the Liberal backbench. You're the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. Are you passing on that there seems to have been a shift? Backbenchers find it easier to get access to the Deputy rather than the Leader?
Well, I wouldn't accept the premise of that question, because I think, you know, every member of the party, whether it's a backbencher or a frontbencher, has access to the Prime Minister, and he's a busy person. He travels a lot. Just earlier this week he was in Indonesia, and previously he was also overseas. So I think they know they can reach out to him, but it's also the role of the Deputy to be there as well for the Prime Minister, and to be somebody that the backbench can talk to. So there's nothing uncommon or particular interesting about that dynamic that you refer to. Julie Bishop's doing a great job. Everyone's behind her work as a Foreign Minister. She's been excellent on the world stage, a safe pair of hands. So too is the Prime Minister, and he's leading from the front.
Now, you've obviously been doing a fair bit in that space of deregulation, but the next step of what I would call that housekeeping, not to diminish what you're doing, but it's necessary housekeeping, and it fits in, I guess, with necessary trims within the budget. The next step, it's got to be serious reform. The reason I raise the polls is not because I think you're going to lose the election because of them. Exactly as you say, Josh Frydenberg, 2 years off, nothing to worry about at this time. But it could stifle reform. It could stifle the political spine, if you like, for the government to take the next step. IR reform, GST reform, wider tax reform and federation reform. You've got the white paper processes in place. How confident are you that we're going to see follow-through on those processes?
Well, you're right. We do need tax reform. We do need IR reform. We need improvements and efficiencies to our federation and the federal-state balance, and that is why we are going about it in a considered way with these white papers. But let's not understate the successes we've had to date, Peter. We've got rid of the carbon tax. We've got rid of the mining tax. We've stopped the boats.
But that's not reform.
We've begun
that's
the
removing
process
bad
of budget
reform,
repair.
surely.
Well, they're all very important initiatives in the greater scheme of things, which is to improve the lot of families and to create jobs. And who knows when the next financial crisis will come, but unless we fix the house when the sun is shining, you won't be able to withstand the next global financial crisis. And it was only because of the good work of John Howard and Peter Costello that we went into the last financial crisis with money in the bank. And we're very conscious of that. So we're doing the microeconomic reform through deregulation. We're doing the macroeconomic reform. We're doing massive investment in infrastructure, and I think that will pay dividends.
I want to ask you about something that I quoted earlier. Let's end where we started, in a sense, with Gough Whitlam's legacy coming into the mix. There's this foreword for Troy Bramston's book that he contributed to. I'm sure you've probably seen it, but he's got a line in there about the primacy of Parliament as something that in his valedictory statement he would like to remind politicians and the public is all important. I strongly think, and this isn't a partisan statement, it is a condemnation of both sides. I think that the role of Parliament for debate is something that has waned. It waned under Labor, it wanes under the Coalition too. Is that the kind of thing that, you know, on a day like today, reflecting on Gough Whitlam, his final words in print for all of us to get was him trying to basically appeal to everyone to return Parliament to what he sees it once having been?
Oh, absolutely, and the Parliament is the right forum to debate policy, and you also need an effective cabinet. One of the features of the previous government, Peter, as you know, was the gang of four were making all the decisions without the reference to the full cabinet, and then you had the Rudd-Gillard battle going on with cabinet, so that wasn't a proper forum. I think Tony Abbott's got it right. He's got the cabinet working effectively. We are having proper debates in the Parliament, but front and centre to good policy, whatever political side you represent, is an effective Parliament. And I think we've put behind us the trials and the tribulations of the previous Parliament, which were a feature of the fact that it was so delicate in terms of numbers and the balance was so delicate. This time it's more emphatic. We have the numbers in the lower house. We're working effectively with the crossbenchers in the upper house, and I think Parliament is getting its right due as the place for serious policy debate and reform.
All right, Josh Frydenberg, always appreciate your thoughts on the program. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Nice to be with you.